everyone. Welcome back to another installation of Amplifying Girls' Voices TV. This is our podcast series, and today I'll be your host, Roli Shasha, but I usually go by Roli, and I'm joined by
Lindsay Zozo Morombo, but everybody lovingly calls me Zoe.
Kimberly Malima, but you can call me Kim.
Thank you. Today we're going to be discussing a very polarizing topic. I wonder what you guys think about it. We'll be discussing virginity testing, how it affects us as young women in the 21st century, how it links to our different cultures, and generally its perception in media, among our homes and communities, and more. So before we dive deep into it, I was wondering if my guests can enlighten us more on what is virginity testing and what does it entail.
Okay, I would explain virginity testing as a process where one is checked on whether they've had penetrative sex or not. And in most instances, right, they use the small finger to test if you're a virgin or not. So that is what usually happens, but then it differs according to cultures and all.
What do you think, Zoe? What's your definition of virginity testing?
Just like she said, virginity testing is when they test, are you still a virgin or you've been sexually active, you know. There are some means, there are some ways that they use that are not okay for us, that are unsafe and unhealthy for us.
Okay, yes, we're going to get further into that. But right now, I want us to discuss who actually benefits from virginity testing, guys. Because when I think about it, I feel like it's not necessarily done for the young girl who's being tested, but for whoever's going to want to marry the girl or for the family itself, you see. Like, do we want them to remain virgins for purely themselves or for the pleasure of the men they are going to marry at the end of the day? What do you guys think?
Well, usually when it comes to virginity testing, abantu ababhenefithayo most of the times kuyabe kufuna ukuthi nxa kungumzali yani uyabe efuna ukuthi umntanakhe when she goes off to be married, she's a virgin, so that's more cows and more money. So that when whoever comes to lobola you, whoever comes to lobola you, you know, will just say she's a virgin and I want this cows, and you won't debate. But if she's not a virgin, which means she has lesser cows, and which means it's a problem for others.
So could we agree that the value of a young woman is now being determined by what most believe is actually a social construct, which is virginity? Do you believe so, Kimi?
Well, I think this is a 50-50 thing. I think young girls also benefit from this, because imagine if in other cultures they are not doing it. The fact that they are doing it means that they are kind of deterring these young girls from indulging in sexual activities, right? So them being tested almost every month, it means that they're not going to have sex when they are young. It means that they're not going to get pregnant. We're not going to have more cases of infant mortality or these young girls dying while giving birth. So I think it's a 50-50 in as much as the family is going to benefit during the lobola negotiations, in as much as it gives the parents that satisfaction that my daughter is still intact. So I think it's two ways. You benefit as the young girl, you benefit as a parent.
Yeah, I think I would also agree that in as much as we usually just talk about the negatives of such cultural practices, we need to agree that it probably stems from a place of caring, of nurturing from, like, you know, our elders and parents. But we cannot deny that there are more negatives than positives when it comes to such things. And a segue to that is us discussing, you know, the negatives that we've seen, we've heard of, some of us have probably experienced when it comes to virginity testing. You know, like, we hear crazy things out there, like stories from our friends, our peers, colleagues. Like, I wonder what you guys have heard. Any negatives?
I've heard when they are testing for virginity, they take an egg, and if it breaks during the process, it's now bakutshela ukuthi next. They don't even care ukuthi are you okay, did it hurt you, or did it cause any, is it going to cause any infectious what. They don't care, they just go next. Omunye abuye, same thing, next. And khonapho you don't know ukuthi nxa umuntu lana esuka khonapho uyayenzani. You know, sometimes you have to you start having diseases and infections, and it's not good.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to health.
Kimmy, do you have any experience, or maybe you've heard something from somewhere?
So I think we have to be honest. The vagina is a very sensitive organ,
It
right?
is.
So the moment we try to insert all these other things, it becomes a problem, right? Because like the most common one is where they insert their finger to check if you are a virgin. If this one enters, they try to. If the two enters, then it means you are not a virgin, right? But then we don't know whether that person who is testing you wash their hands, they sanitize or what, because we have had cases of these young girls getting infections like yeast infections, just to mention a few, right? But then someone might argue that maybe it's your maternal grandmother or what, but I feel like we need to draw a line, right? The vagina is a very sensitive space, a very sensitive organ, right? So we can't be doing that.
So what I'm hearing here is mostly like concerns of sanitation when such things are happening. Is that really in the forefront of their minds when they are, you know, taking part in these practices? I don't think the people facilitating these practices actually have much thought about, you know, sanitation and making sure that the young girls are getting a healthy experience, even if they claim that this is a positive thing for them. In as much as it's positive, is it done in the best way possible? And I also have this thought, I wonder what you guys think about it. One of the negatives I see for virginity testing is that it perpetuates, you know, slut shaming and shaming people who have had sex, whether it was consensual or not. Because I know a certain culture whereby if you are found to not be a virgin but watala uli chichi, you are then marked with a black cross on your back for the entire community to see, you know, for you to feel the shame that you are no longer a virgin. So would we say that to some extent that's a downfall of such practices like virginity testing? Because, you know, where is the freedom exactly, guys?
Like sometimes, usually when that happens, like us as black people, you wouldn't much take it into heart, but there's emotional damage during the process, you know. Like imagine maybe you'd have like abantwana abancane who used to like respect you, call you sis, you know, you'd be the elder sister, because you're walking around with a cross on you wherever. Then they'll start back. Nobody actually listens to you, nobody respects you, they treat you like you're some other thing, you know, they treat you different. It's not, you know, the same way as they used to treat you. It's emotional damage. And sometimes you'll have, you know, men who will be like, so when I see Gigi, so when I feel sis na kwansuku, you know, and say that those kind of things, you know. But in a way, it's still emotionally damaging people. To humble with you and stuff.
I don't know what you think, Miss Kim, but wouldn't you agree that it also adds into like purity politics, whereby we see someone's value has decreased because they had sex? Inherently, a human's value cannot decrease no matter what happens to them. We cannot place value on a human. But virginity testing, does it not in some way also now work towards like categorizing people as these people are better and these people are not good enough?
Well, I think that's a very big problem, because what happens is that we are now discriminating those who are not virgins. I mean, it's not a crime. It's not supposed to be known by people if you don't want it to be known. But the moment you are exposed out there, you cannot control what people say to you. And we know that words can destroy you. One, we have the issues of confidence, we have the issues of self-esteem. So now if the whole community knows that you're not a virgin, in a community where virginity testing is very important, and the fact that you're a virgin is something that will increase your value as a woman, I think it becomes a problem. Because one, it's a matter of your parents being embarrassed in the whole community. And when they get home, you are insulted, you're told all these things. Next thing is the society. So it's not an issue of them trying to deter other girls from having sex because they'll be embarrassed, they'll be humiliated in that sense, right? It's a matter of how do you then deal with that after I've been shamed and all that. Because it's a very big community. And as a young girl, because we need to notice that these are young girls, most of them are below 18. So how do you then embarrass an 18-year-old or someone below that, and then you expect them to live with that?
See, those are some very, very important things we need to consider. But right now, I want us to discuss, this is a very controversial one. But in cultures, especially African cultures that we live in, whereby they prioritize your virginity, we've seen young women go above and beyond, do the most to prove that they are a virgin, or actually fake being a virgin because they are afraid of what you're saying, the stigma, the loss of confidence they'll get when everyone now knows their business. So I don't know if you guys have heard anything, hunga from your older sisters and stuff, or from your peers, things people do to fake being a virgin.
Okay, so I've heard the issue of virginity soaps. I don't know whether it's medically proven or not.
Most of these things have no medical basis.
And then kulezi sweets ezithengiswayo lezi ukuthi umuntu uyakuqhweba nje etown ethi ngithengisa isweets. And then you begin to ask umuntu azakuqhweba ukuthi uthenge isweets, what's going on? And then you have some ladies who insert some herbs down there because they think maybe it's going to go back to how it was. But I feel like it's not even necessary.
Have you heard anything so?
I've heard batata isibindi senkomo. Is it a cow? Goat?
Isibindi.
And then they insert it. Like, so then it stays for a time, then you go and test. Then so ungapuma uli GG. But then medically you'd have diseases and infections, you start getting sick, you start getting, all these weird things. And if you're not educated, you wouldn't know what's happening to you.
Yeah, because it's crazy how women are going above and beyond, to prove their quote-unquote purity, so much that we're even willing to put ourselves and our health at risk. This is unsolicited advice, but advice we all need to hear, that guys, don't mess around with your body unless you're directed by a medical professional. You will get into serious trouble.
Yeah.
So I also have heard out there that always and herbs, but abanye abantu uyabusitshela ukuthi ungageza ngamanzi lawa, you go back to being a virgin, bengakuthandazela, you go back to virgin. None of that works, guys, to be honest with you. But some people believe it works, and we'll let you believe your beliefs. We're liberals here, free choice. But for the most part, just ensure that you're not putting yourself in danger. That's the most important part. I know we've been talking a lot about the downsides of virginity testing and purity politics, but are there any positives you guys have noted?
Yeah, like, positives. Obviously, just like as we said, ukuthi humble across. If I do this and then I go for testing, I'll start walking around with it, because then you're like, oh my god, I can't do this, and it saves you from getting STIs and diseases. Sometimes you will have sex with a person and you wouldn't even know how many sexual partners do they have, what are they bringing to the table and stuff. But then there are diseases that come with it. So in a way, it's trying to protect us, and we have to control.
Okay, but I think sikhuluma ngokuthi yeah akula cleanliness during that process and whatnot. But someone might argue ukuthi okay, la ngamankazana sesigabeni sakhona, right? Ngamankazana azalotsholwa, right? And how can we say that these people are testing abantu abala cleanliness because they are putting these girls at risk? Amankazana lawa kumele ukuthi melabisa inkomo eziningi. And also people might argue ukuthi and maybe you testwa ngumama or what. So I feel like yes, in as much as we can say it's not healthy and whatnot, I think there can be other ways of ngayenzwa ngakho, right? And for the positives, I think I would agree with Uzoe ukuthi, but in terms of fear, Zoe, is it now deterring you because we're not okay, I'll phone meet and whatnot? So lapha sebekwenza ukuthi they are instilling fear. It's not good when afuna ukwenza, when uyabufuna ukwenza. But then that fear, do you think that fear is healthy? Or uzatshona ukucabangela? Because the moment, I think as young people siyakwazi lokho ukuthi the moment we say don't do that, you could funa ukuyakhona as young people, right? So I feel like besides ukuthi benga instill fear, they should just maybe tell these girls something else engasabisiwan. Because umuntu mela is decision not because yesaba but because they know the risk and the what, right? And then I also think that I would agree with you for Uguti. One, I mentioned before Uguti, let's say it's girls younger than 18. Yes, these days we see these teen moms, right? But then as it's not healthy because the moment you start having sex at a tender age, also my problems service cancer and whatnot, and then our bodies are not yet fully developed, right?
Childbirth is very hard,
and then you get pregnant. So what then happens? I think in as much as it might have its disadvantages, there are some advantages also.
Okay, as we draw to an end, I know that we are liberal people here. We believe in choice. So some people may believe that, I take pride in being a virgin. I prefer to be tested for my virginity because it's inherently part of my self-esteem. I feel proud to be a virgin. How then do we find a solution to have these cultural practices in a way that are not as harmful or not as invasive as they are right now?
I think since we are in Zimbabwe right now and the age of consent has been shifted to 18, I feel like this virginity testing should be a choice for these girls who are now over 18. Because you're doing it not because you are forced, but because you want it. Because it will be very important for you to know that you're a virgin or to get the satisfaction, right? So we're saying it should be a choice, not an issue of force meat, not an issue of what you have to go because you're mandated to. So I feel like we need people to consent to those things.
Whereby, when it comes to young people, you'll find that they're probably being coerced by their parents to do it. And I just have one last question for you guys. Where do we draw the line between cultural practices and sexual misconduct? Because one could easily argue that having your virginity tested is infringing on one's sexual liberty. It's crossing the line. So then how do we distinguish that?
When it comes to cultural practices, right? Asiyali ukuthi kube le virginity testing, right? But then so kulezinye indlela, like I've heard ukuthi in some cultures your father is the one that tests for your virginity.
Okay, now that's
like
a very awkward situation.
It's a very awkward
with
situation
your
to have your father testing for your virginity. No, like we understand it's a culture, ne? Aren't there other means, other ways, other than having my father, my dad, testing for my virginity? That's not right.
Like it's the same thing that I was saying. You don't even know why they are doing that, right? But then you can now make a choice, right? No, this is not okay. I have the right to bodily autonomy. I have the right to choose what happens to my body. But you don't have that right mind to make that kind of decision, right? So I think we draw the line. Lapa say uncomfortable doing that. I think we need to talk about that. And the other issue, right? I watched this show, right? Then you have these girls, and all that, because they are ashamed to they are not virgins, right? So why don't these people about virginity testing give these girls a balanced sex education? And not so good you are giving them sex education, you are motivating them to have sex, but then you are equipping them with the information when they are now ready to consent to sex, they know what to expect, they know the consequences of having what unprotected sex, right? So I feel like abantu, they misjudge sex education. They feel like if we give these children too much information, they are going to experiment and whatnot. But it's saying, you know what, no, if you can wait, you can wait, right? And if you now want to consent, these are the things that you need to know, because we cannot run away from the fact that people are going to have sex. We are here because our parents had sex, right? It's something, it's a fact, it's something it's right? And the end is a boy villain. So I feel like it has to be put out there. I want to make this, because there's names in Zagala because Zagala sex education.
So they are being shielded from it because they want to maintain the virginity. Okay guys, this has been a very enlightening talk. Thank you so much for joining me. It was a very polarizing session. I hope you guys learned something. And please sound off in the comments, would you, of course consensually, volunteer to have your virginity tested or not? What do you think the benefits of such practices are? Do you guys practice similar rights and laws within your culture? With that being said, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe on our YouTube channel. You can find us on our Instagram, Twitter and all other social media platforms you can think of.
Thank you.